Okay, welcome back. This is another demo lecture for Unit 1 for the Drawing 1 class. And in this lecture, we're going to be talking about an extended gesture. The first lectures I did were on gesture drawings, usually just small groupings of objects or individual objects. And this is more of a still life setup, and we're going to be talking about how to take going from a gesture drawing where you're doing it for maybe 3 minutes or 5 minutes to a gesture drawing where you might work on it for an hour, or in the case of what you're going to be doing, an hour and a half. Now I'm going to have this drawing divided up into um, three approximately 10-minute videos, one for the beginning, one for the middle, one for the end, and the and so approximately that's going to be about half an hour's worth of work, whereas for you guys, I think an hour and a half is a more reasonable amount of time. Now, to begin with, I want to say that I'm going to draw with my Vine and with my graphite much harder, but I want to demonstrate a little bit just exactly how light you could draw, and you probably want to draw as you're working on your gesture drawing. The reason being that, like, I'm going to draw a lot harder with a lot darker value because it shows up on the camera, whereas probably right now what I'm doing probably is almost completely invisible on the camera. But the point I want to make is that if you draw quite lightly in your beginning gesture stages, it gives you a lot more room to make changes and to figure out where you're going to place things and take some time. So I'm going to switch now where I'm going to be making some more definite darker marks with my Vine and with my graphite, but I'm still working on the beginning stages here, even though I'm making kind of like some slightly darker marks. Now, the reason why I'm doing this as an extra demo is that I've found over the years that students can get very quickly pretty good at gesture drawings where they're doing individual object studies, but will struggle when they're trying to apply those ideas of how to do a gesture drawing or some combination of mass gesture and scribble gesture, how to do that in a long extended drawing and in a drawing where they're looking at something a little bit more complex in terms of space, a more still life type space like this. And so, first step that I want to emphasize is work lightly. Even though I'm making a darker mark, you can work a lot lighter than that. Work mass first, very broadly. Try to figure out what you're looking at. Try to see the whole. Draw quickly, try not to overthink. Keep being willing to make corrections, like if you decide, oh, I need a little more space there, maybe that means the scale of these shoes needs to get smaller. Notice that some of my lines are lines that are about measuring space between things. Some of them are very internal, just kind of figuring out the height of something or the angle of something, right? Some are much looser and scribbly, where they're kind of almost like I'm building a wire model of the thing I'm looking at, trying to create kind of cross contour lines that wrap around, starting from the inside of the form. But the whole time, I'm thinking and I'm looking and I'm trying to understand what I'm looking at, but I'm trying to see it as a whole. Once again, very important kind of ethic to the whole idea of thinking about gesture drawing, which is to not get slowed down by thinking about individual objects or thinking about individual details, right? Not saying, oh, it's time for me to draw the laces, right? We don't slow down to draw the laces. We let the laces happen in the whole process. In fact, I try my very best not to think at any moment that I'm drawing an object, right? I'm not thinking about I'm drawing a shoe right now. Instead, I'm trying to think about drawing the whole situation, the whole still life, That's one of the reasons why you try to keep your hand moving kind of continuously, staying on the paper and moving quickly, is to keep yourself focused on that idea of drawing the whole rather than drawing any one individual object. I'm still just using graphite at this point. I'm going to start to use my eraser. If you remember from the last demos, I talked about drawing with your eraser, allowing your eraser to be a linear tool, right? Notice I'm really not using my eraser as a tool for editing, or at least not much. Mostly I'm using it as a tool to put in light marks, almost like the opposite of my charcoal and my graphite was a tool to put in dark marks. I'm going to be switching to Conte, and in your drawing, if you, at this stage, and remember, I'm drawing a lot faster than probably you guys will draw. Like, what's going to take me under half an hour to do would probably take you about an hour and a half to do, and that's perfectly okay. That's fine. There's no problem with that. But you could also use a charcoal pencil at this stage, and I will switch to a charcoal pencil at a certain stage just to kind of show a little bit about the difference. And notice that even as I'm moving to this darker tool, I'm still keeping it pretty light. And I'm still trying not to focus too much on contour, not trying to be too definite as to where that outside edge of any form is. Still trying to draw as much as possible internally. Just your drawing, along with contour line drawing, especially blind contour line drawing. These are kind of classic, so many different versions of, or pedagogy of drawing are based on these starting exercises. And it's kind of a critical way for you to start to learn to see. One of the great things that gesture drawing teaches you is to not worry so much about any individual error, but rather to see the purpose of a drawing as to always be correcting, right? Rather than to worry about avoiding errors, think of the process of the drawing as constantly finding where the mistakes are and correcting and changing and editing and correcting over and over again. All right, we're getting just down to the end of part one. As you can see, I'm still keeping it pretty light. Okay, I'm going to end there for part one.